Last time we spoke, I was putting pollen on hives in Bee Yard 51. Now today, I'm driving back to my hometown to where the original BeeFit colonies are currently located. But today, I'm putting on a different kind of pollen, and here's why.
Everybody going through it, everybody going through it, everybody. But we still gotta pursue it, gotta do it, cause we all going through it.
Right, let's go put some pollen on these hives. But first, pollen patties, check. And dry pollen, check. Whew, it is cold and windy. Come on, Michigan, where's spring at? I really like these pollen patties though because they look to be homemade. I also got these pollen patties from Napoleon Bee Supply, and what I love so much about that store is that everything there is local. He tries to get everything from local producers, and I really like that because I love supporting local instead of always having to buy things from like big corporations. So go check them out. Okay, let's see if I can carry all this up this giant freaking hill. Okay, let's do this thing. Okay, the hill definitely kicked my butt. But this is my favorite part. Walking into the woods to see my beautiful bee yard. But first, before I throw these pollen patties on, let me explain to you why I'm putting on pollen patties and not dry pollen. Because like I said in my last video, pollen patties do have a risk of you potentially pretty much creating a breeding ground for small hive beetle if you have any small hive beetles in your colony. So you have to be really careful with when you apply it, especially coming out of winter time, because all of our bees are going to be at a lower population than they normally would, which means they'll be more susceptible to pests and other diseases. So you have to be a little bit careful, and especially since I'm not able to check on my colonies very often, it is a little bit of a risk to put pollen patties on them. Just because I'm not going to be able to see them for a couple weeks. So if they start having small hive beetle, I won't know until it's too late. But the reason that I'm putting on pollen patties, so you guys have heard me talk about the fact that having my hives in these woods, it keeps my colonies a lot more like, it keeps them more cold and they're not able to heat up like they normally would. So because of that, I don't have a whole lot of bees being able to get out of the colony unless it hits like 60 degrees, because these woods take a bit to warm up and they're pretty moist. Of course, it's right now raining, so it looks really wet, but generally the woods here do not really dry out that quickly. That's usually how woods are anyways, because they don't get a whole lot of sunlight. So because of that, that is why I'm putting on pollen patties, because if I were to put out dry pollen, they're not really going to be able to go out of the hive and find that, just because they're not able to fly very often, and we don't have any 60 degree days coming up yet. When I was looking at the forecast, I wasn't really seeing anything until like mid-April, which really sucks. Hoping that changes, because you know how the weather is, it's always changing. But so yeah, because of that, I'm going to put pollen patties on them so that they have the pollen right there ready for them to grab, and so they don't have to go fly around to find it, since like I said, they're not really going to be able to leave the hive. So these are a homemade version of pollen patties, and what they pretty much are is just pollen substitute, a mixture of sugar syrup and possibly some honey. I didn't see the ingredients on these kind, but they look pretty good, so I'm excited to see how they turn out. But one cool thing about this is I am going to be able to do a comparison of which is better, which works better for building up your colonies, dry pollen or pollen patties. So this kind of works out. I'll be able to compare the two for you guys. But because these are so big, I'm not going to put this entire pollen patty on. This would be way too much for the bees. Because you only want to give them as much as they can consume because of that problem with small hive beetle. If you give them too much and it just sits there, then yes, it's going to become a breeding ground for small hive beetle. So you only want to give them as much as they're able to consume so that hopefully it's gone as quickly as possible. So I'm thinking I'm just going to break this up into thirds and just put a third on each colony and just start from there. Better to do a little rather than a lot and then come back and find small hive beetles in my colony. So let's just start with that. You can barely see it, but of course it would start snowing. Of course! Okay, so to break these up, I'm literally just going to, because I think this will work. Oh man, maybe I should have brought, oh here we go, okay. Okay, that might be a little more than a third. That should be okay. And it's okay to just put the sugar straight on, or the paper straight on there. The bees are okay with that. You don't have to take the paper off. You can just lay it right on the cluster. So that's what I'm gonna do. They ain't gonna be happy. It's been pretty cold, so they're definitely clustering up right now. What I saw when I opened up that colony is last time they were on top of the frame, but now they're around the middle of the frame, so they must be on that brood trying to keep it warm. So hopefully they're still able to reach up and get some of that sugar. But I put the pollen patty right on tops of the frames, right where the cluster is, about probably 4 inches above where the cluster is actually resting right now. Okay, and on to the next one. I don't like to see that for some reason this lid is kind of tipped up, which I'm confused how that happened because I know I put bricks down on it. So why are the bricks off of it? Ugh, I do not like that. Okay, they're still in there. But yeah, see, it must be pretty cold because a lot of them are down there clustering. I don't know if you can see them, it's kind of dark. But let me throw some pollen on this real fast. Yeah, like I said, these woods are pretty cold and they don't warm up really fast. So what I'm seeing when I open up each one of these colonies is they're in a cluster about halfway down the frame. It's around 39 degrees right now, so that makes sense why they're clustering up like that. Right now is a time when all of our bees are brooding up and getting ready for springtime. So that is why they're going to be sitting on that frame like that instead of up on the sugar, because they're trying to make sure that brood stays warm so that it doesn't die, and they will not leave that brood. So that is why isolation starvation is such a huge thing right now. Just because, like I said, they're not able to leave that brood because they have to keep it warm, because if they do leave the brood, then it ends up being chilled and it ends up dying. So make sure you keep your food right on top of them at all times, so that they have enough food, because they're not going to be able to venture out to find any. These gloves do not work. I don't normally like putting bricks on the tops of these telescoping covers, because what I found is it does make them start to rust out a lot quicker, because it kind of traps the water all right there by the brick. But I'd rather my telescoping cover maybe get a little bit of wear versus lose any of these hives right now, because they are essential this year for all the plants I have. I haven't even cracked this hive yet, so we're gonna crack this hive today and see how exactly it's doing. Here we go. All good to go. Okay, I'm not sure where the cluster is going to be in this colony, but I do want to put some of this pollen patty on them. So this will be the first time I'm cracking this colony open since, I don't think I've seen it since October. So yeah, I guess let's see. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of people hating that I'm hating in the comments that I am cracking this hive open, but just saying, your bees are trainable and your bees adapt to how you beekeep. So if you want to beekeep with bees that you can't crack open that end up dying in the wintertime, then that's okay. But personally, my bees are okay with being cracked open in the wintertime and they don't have any issues with that, so I'm gonna crack them open. I didn't bring a hive tool. Guess we're gonna use a key. Oh wow, you're way down there. We're not even close to being up here yet. So the bees right now in this colony are about right here. I have the pollen patty all the way up here. I don't really know where to put it, so I want to know what your guys' opinion is. Where would you put the pollen patty in this kind of circumstance? Because this is still full of honey, but the cluster is right here. And they're not really, like I said, going to leave the cluster if the colony is too cold, because they have to keep that brood warm. So they're not going to go up here to get that pollen patty. But I also can't put the pollen patty right here unless I put some kind of shim right there to be able to put it right on top of the cluster. So actually, maybe that would be a good idea. Hold on. All right, I got one. This is what we're gonna do. They're not gonna be happy. They're gonna get pissed. I don't have a hive tool, so I have to use my keys because I don't know where I placed my hive tool. I always keep it in my car, but for some reason it's not there. So this will be interesting. Stay tuned. Okay, here we go. Sorry guys. I know. Okay, that'll work for now. I would not suggest leaving a colony like this with a shim in the middle like that when it starts hitting that big flow time, because they could possibly build that little gap out with comb. But right now, they're not building any sort of comb until we have that first flow when the dandelions bloom. So we still got a little bit of time before that. I will come back and check on them before then. So this will work perfect for now. I don't want to speak too soon, but I'm honestly so shocked I did not just get stung by doing that. Because they weren't happy, but I did that in like record time. This is my D4 wing virus colony that I am still so shocked is still alive and really kicking butt, because I was not expecting that to happen. I was expecting them to collapse, because what happens when they have D4 wing virus is it takes out some of the bees that, as they age, is necessary to fill different jobs and different roles in the colony. So what happens is when those bees are then kicked out because they all had the virus, now when that colony progresses through the winter time, say they need bees to help clean up the hive, or say they need bees to be nurse bees or to be guard bees, they now don't have the bees of the proper age to fill that role. So it puts a lot of stress on the colony whenever you have a virus like this. So like I said, really shocked they're really still kicking. I am so excited to really analyze this colony this year. That was super easy. Okay, last time I checked this one, it was crazy and there was tons of bees, so we'll see. Oh wow, they must have went down. Okay, I'll save you guys the bore of watching me put pollen on every single one of these hives, so give me 1 sec and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have some dry pollen out here, just in case it gets warm enough. Doubtful, but just in case, doesn't hurt to always have some out this time of year, just in case it gets warm before I get here next time. But yeah, super simple. I will check back in to see how all of these are doing in a couple weeks to see if they've actually consumed the pollen patty. This is really going to help them build up so that they are strong for the springtime. The whole idea with this is when you start getting that protein and that pollen in the colony, this stimulates the brood net, or this stimulates the queen to then start laying more eggs and grow the brood nest even bigger, because it's telling the bees, hey, a nectar flow is almost here, it's about to be here, it's coming. So they really start ramping up and getting ready for that. So try it out. Let me know what you guys think about adding pollen, and yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Oh, and I almost forgot, I'm teaching another beginner's beekeeper class on April 15th at Napoleon Bee Supply. It's completely free, so if you want to get started with beekeeping but you don't really know how to start, you don't really know anything about bees, and you're just wanting to learn, or even if you do have bees and you just want to learn more information and ask a bunch of questions, feel free to show up. We would love to have you and help you out a little bit if you're in the area. So I'll see you guys there.